I'll share my screen. Okay. Okay, recording started. Yeah. First, let me just introduce myself. You may know me or not. My name is Xiaodi. I'm your meetup host. I'm a volunteer of TEKsystems, Chinese IT Association, aka CETA. So about us, let me go to the next slide. Yeah, so TEKsystems is a non-profit organization, and we started from I think officially registered in 2018, right? 2018. Yeah. So around 5 years. We host monthly meetups. Now we have hosted more than 40 meetups since 2016. So we are a group of IT professionals who are passionate about sharing knowledge and experience in IT area. So we are here to help the IT professionals to learn more about IT and build connections with each other in New Zealand. So we focused on connecting people and learn from each other and growing together. Okay. Another thing, we are looking for more speakers and volunteers. If you are interested in like sharing your knowledge, or you want to just show your skills for more attendees, please feel free to let me know. Also, if you would like to help us build a community, contact us, please. And next, you can visit our website, www.ceta.org.nz. Okay. Just about the venue and the event today. So the toilet, just go out this door, opposite to this door. And if any emergency occurs, please decline and evacuate from this side. We may take some photos, as we said before, and at the end of this event, it'd be great if you can help us type up the room. Thanks for our sponsors. First, Polar Tech. This is a company, IT tech company based in Christchurch, and JetBrains. So they provide us some JetBrains product. Okay, so at the end of the session, we'll run the draw. But it's only for CETA members. So if you are not members, you can join us now. Next, today's speaker is David, but before we invite David, I'd like to invite Philon, who is our chair of CETA, just speak a few words to wrap up this year, because it's the last session of 2022. Welcome.
之前这个没有说我说对了嘛，所以的，因为我以前已经这个说了一天的这个英文在公司开会，我现在这个让我再说一口英文，我估计以后就躺这样。我总结一下我们今年的这个工作吧，我不知道大家有没有看我们今年的这个就是 annual report， 我们在应该是10月份吧。 我们开了我们今年的这个 annual general meeting， 就是我们叫 AGM， 我们会总结我们今年的这个工作，我们就在这儿开的，实际上。那大家如果感兴趣的话，可以现在去我们的这个网站上，我们有我们所有历年的这个 annual report， 在这个 annual report 里面就会基本上会涵盖我们每年所做的工作，包括我们的整个的这个finance 财务情况，对吧？都是公开的。比如我们大家每年交上来的会员费，我们到底是怎么花的？ 对吧？大家在我们的这个每年的这个 report 里面都可以看到。我其实没有做这个过多的这个准备，但是我想说的就是今年有几个方面吧，我觉得我们有比较大的这个突破性的这个一些进展。比如说我们今年有2个应该说有2个这个 official 的这个 sponsor， 一个就是刚才小迪提到的这个考拉科技，考拉科技是 base 在这个基督城的一个华人的公司，他们做了很多这个比如说类似这种线上的电商平台之类的这个工具，这是我们华人对吧？ 那在这个新西兰这块比较擅长的或者比较熟悉的这个领域，他们做的也很不错。还有一个就是这个阿里巴巴 Cloud，就我们叫阿里云啊，对吧？他们也是我们的这个 sponsor，对我们的这个怎么说，对我们 C 上的这个工作也特别支持。这是我觉得是我们怎么说比较，或者我个人吧，至少我个人我觉得比较自豪的一个比较大的这个 milestone，因为我们从刚才看到这个小迪这个在第一页上写的，我们实际上从2016年就开始做，我们2016年9月份做我们第一期的这个 meetup，然后到现在，实际上大家如果感兴趣去看我们的这个 meetup.com 的这个页面的话，我们从来没有 miss 过一期的这个 meetup，从2016年到现在。如果你去看，我相信去看任何一个组织 meetup 的这个，他们很难做到这一点，就是你不 miss 掉任何一期。我们一般来说，我们只有12月份，不会组织 meetup，因为对吧？这边圣诞节了嘛，我们一般不会再组织 meetup。但是除此之外，我们基本上没有，我非常确定我们没有 miss 过一期。这是一个，还有就是。我们的这个会员数，就包括我们的这个会员 renew 的这个情况，大家如果看我们这个微信群，估计也能够看到，我们现在应该是我记不清具体的数字，应该在170人左右，就是我们所有的这个付费的这个 member，所以大家能够看出来我们这个 renew 的这个情况是非常好的，就是从我们2018年第一期我们有60个最开始的这个创始会员，一直到现在。我们到这个170个左右，我们老会员一直在持续的这个支持我们，所以这个也是我就是特别自豪的一点。还有一个就是我想说的就是这个所有的这一切，包括我们的这个活动，包括我们这个一些这个所有的这些achievements 吧，都离不开我们这些我们这些志愿者。之前我们在群里面，包括我们之前有一些这个。这样那样的这个不愉快的这个声音，在我们的这个会员群里面，那个时候我们就说过这个问题。我们所有的这个志愿者，其实和大家一样，都是这个正常付费的这个会员。我们不会说，因为我们已经是志愿者了，包括我在内，我们就不交会员费啊，或者我们就有一些什么特权。其实，对吧？我们这个完全是一个属于我们所有这个会员的这样的一个组织，并不是说，对吧？这个应该有什么特殊的这些利益也好啊，或者说权利也好，所以这个还有是一点。其他的我不想说特别多了，我还有一点吧，到明年2023年应该是我们这个5周年，我们会员的这个5周年，我们希望就是搞一些比较大的这个活动，一个就是我们现在在计划我们恢复我们的这个嘉年华。我不知道有没有这个我们老的会员参加过我们以前的这个嘉年华。我们每年以前在2月份左右，我们会有一次嘉年华，就是所有的这个，所有我们的这个会员，包括会员的这个家属、小孩啊什么的，我们这个都可以在一起，像一个大联欢一样的。不是这样的这个 session，就是我们会找一个场地，户外的也好，以前都是户外的，然后这个我们一起，对吧？烧烤啊，一起组织一些活动。我明年应该会恢复，这个正在这个筹备中。然后还有一个就是刚才我说的，我们到明年5周年，我希望我们有一些，我还没有这个得到 committee 的这个批准，但是我们希望给我们这个一直陪我们5年到现在的这些老会员有一些这个更好的这个回馈。我先不公布是什么，但是因为我们现在也没讨论下来定下来是什么，但是这个我们正在这个计划过程中，好吧？我就说到这些，谢谢大家。
Thanks, Bruno. Okay, next, just to welcome our speaker, David. David is a professional recruiter who is willing to help everyone to find your dream job. If you are looking for a job or you want to achieve a new goal, that's best choice. Okay, welcome, David. Yeah. So what do you? Just. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you everybody for coming this evening. It's nice to thank you very much for Jody for inviting me to talk this evening as well. He and I only really met 2 weeks ago virtually, and it's our first time meeting this evening in person. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Jody, I appreciate it, and nice to meet a few of you this evening. So if you want to get into that, let's start with a quick story. Then we can explore a little bit about what you guys would like to learn and take away from today. Hopefully I can help answer some of your questions. Happy to talk a bit more about how to stand out in a competitive industry. I know there's some of you new to New Zealand as well, so that might help you. We'll talk about some interview tips. Once you've been successful in standing out, how do you then nail the interview? I'll end with another story, and then I can answer some questions at the end. So yeah, I just want to start the story. So this is me about 4 years ago. My job at that time, I was a watermelon farmer in Guatemala, Central America. So a lot's changed since then. I come from a hospitality background. I dropped out of high school at 17, London to work in bars and restaurants for several years. Travelled Europe at the time, and was lucky enough to work my way up through the restaurant industry and run a couple of bars and restaurants for some friends who owned a restaurant branding over in London and the UK. I realised that it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I like talking to people, I like customer service, but there wasn't really much money or progression in it, and it wasn't really what I wanted to keep doing. So much to my parents' surprise, I packed my bags, came home and started university here at Vic in Wellington. I did a BCom, and after 3 years of that, I finished uni at the age of 28, started when I was 25, and I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So I packed my bags again. I got a one-way ticket to Vietnam. I travelled Southeast Asia for a long time, spent some time in Africa, in Europe. I then flew across to Cuba, spent some time in Mexico, where I met my current girlfriend, who I think is dialing from Canada today. Hey, George, if you're watching. And her and I were then travelling down through South and Central America, and that was my last job before recruitment. Was watermelon farmer in Guatemala. I had started running out of money. You don't actually make a lot of money watering watermelons in Guatemala, so I wanted to come to New Zealand to do something different. At the time, my sister was a lawyer by this point. My brother was excelling in his studies, and I wanted something more for myself. So I decided to pack my bags, fly home to New Zealand, and I was living on my sister's couch up in Karori. And I knew what I wanted to do. I had my degree. I started talking to people who I knew from university and knew from previous work in Wellington. And people started talking about recruitment. And I'd never heard of recruitment. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know anything about it at all, but I knew that I liked people. I always enjoyed engaging with people. I liked business. For my degree, I had an interest in it, but I didn't really know what it meant or how to get into it. And I also liked technology. I always had a deep passion for tech, and would find myself in my own time reading, researching, watching YouTube videos. I was always fascinated by it. So recruitment, I was lucky to fall into it because you get all of those three things blended together in recruitment. So things didn't actually get any easier after that. I got my first job in recruitment, which I'm still in today, at TEKsystems, and to be honest, it was really hard, and I sucked for such a long time. I didn't help anyone find any jobs. I didn't get any new customers for the business. I wasn't making any money, and for about honestly 2 years, it was really, really hard. I wanted to quit. I wanted to go back to bartending. It was easy. I wanted to do something. I just wanted to get out of it because it was really hard and I wasn't being successful. And I kept going, and then COVID hit in March 2020, and then all of a sudden recruitment got even harder because no one was hiring, no one was coming into the country, all roles were on hold. So recruitment agencies didn't make any money at that point. And so I actually, about 3 months after that, it would have been June 2020, I quit. I went to my boss and I said, hey, I'm done. I'm resigning. I want to move to Canada. My partner is from Canada, so her and I decided to go back there. And as time went on, it would have been September 2020. My bosses came to me and they said, "Do you still want to leave?" I said, "Yeah, I still want to go." And then they said, "Well, would you think about an opportunity, perhaps leading our permanent team and running our permanent business for New Zealand?" And I thought, why are they asking me? I haven't done anything. I'm not very good at my job. This is really hard. Like, why are they asking me? But that really gave me confidence. And I decided to make a decision. I said yes. So I stayed, and that was a turning point for me. And since then, things became better and better and better and better. And now I feel like I've made the perfect and right decision not to quit, not to give up, to stay in my job, which is now, thankfully, has come right 18 months later. And I haven't really looked back. So I guess the story I'm trying to tell you is that if there's anyone else in the room who also is perhaps struggling at work or doesn't know what they want to do with their career, or isn't quite sure, it really can just be one moment, one opportunity, one turning point, and then really, things can really go well and progress for you from there. So I hope that gives someone in the room confidence that you can still make it if things are hard at some point. So I just thought I'd start that little story about me watering watermelons. Moving on to what you guys might want to learn or take away from today. I spoke to a few of you coming in the door. I think Sarah is looking to stand out in interviews. Doesn't have any professional or practical IT experience yet, but she wants to know how to stand out in an interview. So we'll talk about that for sure. Sam at the back there in the yellow. So he's transitioning into IT. I think he's doing a music degree at the moment. Yes. And he wants to move into the IT industry. He's studying front-end technology, also learning .NET development and C# on the back end. So it's a great industry to be in. So you want to learn how to maybe transition across to that, find out who's hiring in the industry, potentially where you could go with that degree. So I can help you there. And also I spoke to Ely, who's going to a meet and greet interview, and he doesn't know what that means and how to perform in an interview where it sounds like it's quite casual. It probably won't be. That's just a tip for you straight away, but we can talk about that later. When I asked Jowdy what he wanted to learn 2 weeks ago, the only thing he asked me was this. And I said, yeah, we can talk about that. So if anyone has any questions about how to make lots of money, you can do that in IT as well. So we'll get that. I'm just joking, he didn't actually say that. What I thought you guys might be interested in though is to learn about who's hiring IT specialists in New Zealand now. For those of the people I spoke to, it sounds like software engineering development was quite sought after in this room. I know Jani's already doing it, obviously. Just to raise their hands, who's interested in software development or already doing a job or wants to pursue that kind of role? A couple of you? A few of you? Yeah, definitely you, Sarah. Anyone else? What about other skill sets? What about design or UX, UI, front end? Yeah? All right, we can talk about that as well. What about more business stuff, like business analysis, project management? Yeah? You guys as well? Okay, cool. So we can explore those skill sets. When you are a recruiter, you get a tool which is called Talent Insights. So what I thought might be quite useful for you guys today is just to share. We'll start with software engineering because that's, I think, what most of you guys are interested in. So what I can do, if I type in software engineering into here, well, and we'll set the location for New Zealand because I know there's some Aucklanders on the call. Right, so we'll just search on that just to get an overview of the market for software engineers in New Zealand. So this is going to bring up anyone who's got LinkedIn, who has a location set to be in New Zealand, who has a job title similar to software engineer. So this data will draw in programmers, it'll draw in developers, it will draw in any kind of engineering role someone's got their CV LinkedIn to. So that means that in New Zealand, it looks like there's about 11,300 of you, which has grown 4% in the last year with the borders opening. Almost 3,000 have changed jobs in the last year. All right, and if you look here, this data shows the demand is really high and very hard to hire, which is good news for you guys because it means it should be easy, hopefully, to find a job. So most of you said in Auckland, almost 5,000 based in Auckland, Wellington, behind it around 1,800, then Christchurch, then Hamilton, and so on. But I just thought I'd ask maybe a quiz question. Does anyone have any ideas maybe who hired the most software developers in New Zealand this year or in the last 12 months?
Your company or
Datacom?
your company?
A company, yeah. Any ideas? Datacom? One, yeah.
Zero.
Zero. Anyone else? Datacom and zero? I think you guys are probably right. So if you scroll down here, right, so in the last 12 months, and this data works by people who have LinkedIn changing jobs. So say they were at zero and then moved to KiwiBank, for example, and they change their LinkedIn. That would draw that data and change the data for us here. So it's only people who can change their LinkedIn profiles. That's where the number comes from. But 477 people changed their job title to software engineer and moved to zero this year. So they've grown 24% in software engineering in the past 12 months. Datacom coming second with about half that, so zero well ahead. ASB a third, BNZ and KiwiBank. And what do you guys notice about 4 out of the 5 companies there? What kind of stands out to you? Finance. Yeah, exactly. So I think the financial sector in New Zealand now is booming. The traditional banks like BNZ, like KiwiBank and ASB, but also the fintechs like Xero are growing rapidly as well. And a lot of the talent that has been at Xero is also getting headhunted by international companies from overseas as well, which is definitely interesting. You can see here the gender diversity, so 82% are male, 18% female. Before I click enter, who advertise the most BAs? Thanks. Yeah, let's have a look. So just starting with the high level data, so 5,700 or so, and a fourth have changed jobs in the last 12 months. Right, probably because you can get more money doing that, right? The market's been busy. Most again in Auckland, about 1,500 in Wellington. So if you're BA in Wellington now, you're about, there's another 1,500 of you. And again, it gets smaller as you go down to Christchurch and such. But yeah, going down again, it's the banks that have been hiring pretty strongly in this area. ANZ killing it, 131. right? If you look at the gender diversity here, interestingly, more females than male. Right, so that's where the women are kind of showing up in IT, which is pretty cool. And it gets even heavier when you go into the design and some of the UX UI stuff. You actually get about 60-40 female, which is pretty cool. So it's women in the IT industry there. Again, going down to interesting where these people come from. Right, so if you're studying at the moment at Vic, most of them got hired out of Vic. A lot of them get hired out of Auckland Uni as well. Maths is a big one. And the top fields they're studying IT, pretty obvious. Business as well, computer science, and accounting is a big thing as well. I don't think it shows it on LinkedIn because people typically don't put numbers on there. Yeah, you'll find it there. You'll find it in Seek. We've got similar tools for Seek as well, which show salaries people are putting what they expect rather than what they earn. So the data is quite off. I mean, I can probably tell you from a contractor perspective, you know, what the ads are earning, if you're interested, but it won't come up on LinkedIn. Again, hiring demand really high, hard to hire. My company has been going, they've been trying to hire BAs for the last, since COVID, 18 months. It's been a really, really high demand. So no real surprise there. Again, it's the banks that are hiring. But if you go down, does anyone here work in government? No one. Wow, okay. In Wellington, that's unusual. That is unusual here. Just have a look at the companies, just to see what kind of top 10 or 20. So IRG's names are there's Auckland. MOE is a big one in the government for MSD as well. So a couple of the government players there, MD. So the kind of large, cool government organisations are hiring a lot of BAs. Lots of them on contract as well. These guys want to hire parents. They want to hire permanent people, but there's such high demand for contracting out there, they're finding it difficult. Any other requests for skill sets here, guys? Anyone interested in hearing about any other job title which I might want to have a look at? DevOps. All right. Let's have a look. DevOps engineer. Any guesses for who's hiring the most DevOps engineers? Let's see.
Oh,
Spark. Vodafone, Spark, Laven, it's all cloud, right? MIOB, Zero. Right, so I didn't know that, but if you're interested, you might want to help start looking at telcos if they're not to your area. I don't know why it's heavy, so heavy in there, but it seems to be. Laven, yeah, the cloud guys, MIOB, Zero, Datacom. Just a general overview. There'll obviously be a lot less of you guys, I imagine. Interested in there, only 500 apparently. I'm sure that's not right. I'm sure there's more. Again, most in Auckland, lots in Wellington. I just want to be curious about the titles there.
what about solution architect? Some ask.
Solution architect, all right. Do they want Auckland specifically, or are they just want it New Zealand?
It's just New Zealand.
Yeah. Who's hired the most architects then for the last 12 months? What do you reckon? Datacom. 1,500 solution architects. A bit less turnover here, guys. 291 out of 1,400 who've changed jobs. Again, most sit in Auckland, but Datacom seem to come out on top. Again, AWS, pretty interesting. Spark, again, Telco, Microsoft. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah. Cool. So I hope you guys have found that useful. If anyone wants any more skill sets, let me know later and I can show you. All right. Cool. So that's kind of a bit of an overview about what, to be honest, everything I've seen there all that is what the market is doing. Lots of people are looking jobs. Lots of people are looking for opportunities. I think the job industry in New Zealand in IT has ever been this busy. And that is causing a lot of people to look for new work, and customers are going crazy for talent. So that's what we're seeing. So now that you guys know all of that, how are you going to stand out when there are so many of you in New Zealand? And yes, the job market's hot, but you want to have the best job. You want to have the job that's right for you. And if you want to go to if you're not find that perfect opportunity, how are you going to do it? How are you going to make sure that you stand out in a competitive market? So good news is you guys are already well ahead of the game because you're here tonight. Right, networking is really important. I'm sure you've all hopefully met someone new tonight. And you just never know the kinds of opportunities you'll come across when you go networking. I'm sure you're all aware of other networking events as well. There are hundreds in Wellington. It's not just around the we have to be locked down and we can't see people, which is great. But I would really encourage everyone to get out and do networking. But I'm preaching to the client, you guys are already here doing networking, which is great. Certifications, I think are really important in the technology industry for kind of two main reasons. Firstly, or three main reasons. Firstly, it's going to help you with your job. It's going to make you a better, for example, developer. It's going to make you more knowledgeable. But secondly, someone who's hiring talent wants to see people invest in themselves and wants to see people invest in themselves with their own time and their own cash outside of work to make themselves better at something they're interested in. Right? So it does make you stand out. It does make you different. Lots of people don't do it, and the ones that do, they are showing they're intrinsically interested in the jobs they're applying for. It's a really good look to have certifications. And the third reason is people like me, recruiters and other hiring managers will actually word search for people. And if you've got more certifications, you're going to come up top of the list. And then you're going to be found more quickly. You're going to get a firstly approach about opportunities. Of course, you can just put those keywords into your CV and will still come up. But having those certifications there, I think really does help it stand out. And you learn a lot as you go. Of course, meeting lots of recruiters. It's important to network. The more recruiters you meet, the more opportunities you'll come across, the more people you'll be networked with in Wellington. And again, if I meet an excellent, I specialise in software development. So if I meet an excellent software developer and they show me their CV and they've got great experience and they're passionate and they've got lots of certifications and they're really interested in what they do and they come across like that, recruiter will go to their customers and say, here's an excellent CV, you should meet this person. Right, so the more recruiters you meet and the more involvement you have in that world, the more opportunities you'll find for yourselves as well. Because a lot of jobs aren't posted on Seek, a lot of jobs aren't posted on LinkedIn, a lot of jobs are done straight through recruitment agencies with their customers. And again, the last piece there is go to lots of interviews. If you're lucky enough to get an interview, go to it, practice, mess it up, do it again. And at the end of the day, if you don't like the job, you don't have to take it. Right, but it's a skill interview, and you've got to go to them. If you're looking for a job now and you don't know what you're looking for, just get your CV out there and go to the interviews. Right, you'll learn a lot through that process. It's a really good skill to have. And again, you don't have to take a job. Right, so I'd encourage people to go out and do that. LinkedIn, we just talked a lot about LinkedIn. Some people hate it. I'm a recruiter. I live on it all day, every day. I'm not going to tell you how to make your LinkedIn look great because you can find all that on YouTube and Google. But the point I'm trying to make is that no one's going to know what you're doing unless you talk about it. If you go to a network event, put it on LinkedIn. If you get a certification, put it on LinkedIn. If you change your job, put it on LinkedIn. Right? Be descriptive, be detailed, talk about what's important to you, talk about your passions, talk about what you're looking for, and you're going to get attention that way. Because if you like, whether you like it or not, that's how recruitment's done in 2022. It's all digital, it's all online, it's not paper-based anymore. People with good CVs and people with good LinkedIn profiles do stand out. So I really encourage you to go on YouTube. There's heaps of content from LinkedIn there. They can help. If you want to see a good LinkedIn profile, look at Charlie's, it's awesome. Heaps of detail, and all the certs are on there, and he talks a lot about the networking events he goes to. And that's why he's done an awesome job at Kiwi Bank. Cool. Goal setting, I thought we'd talk about this briefly because it reminds me of my days when I was also looking for jobs. I didn't have one, so I set myself goals to go out and get that job. Inputs are going to equal a good output for you, a good outcome, right? So you've got to up the volume when you first start looking for work. But if you don't have a job or you don't like the job and you want to get one, right? You've got to really set yourself a goal to send X amount of CVs, talk to X amount of recruiters, go to X amount of interviews, because it's never a case of you go to one interview, you get a job, and that's it, right? Unless if you really want your dream job. So, set yourself a specific goal. Like, for example, I want to be a software engineer. right? Make it measurable. So, it's measurable by getting that job, right? By finishing the 1 hour software engineer. Is it attainable? If you're at university, you talk to the right people. If you've got the skills, it should be. They set yourself a goal. Is it relevant to your university degree? There's a time bound. So when do you want to be a software developer by and work your way backwards? Right. So it's really important that when you are looking for a job that you have to put in the work. You've got to treat it like a full-time job. You've got to go and send out lots of CVs and meet lots of recruiters and set yourself some goals or KPIs for that week to hit the numbers, because if you're just sending out 1 or 2 here or there, you're not going to get noticed. So you've really got to up the volume and set yourself some goals for getting on the CV and interviews out there. Any questions on that slide, sorry, specifically?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I know recruiters always work with people with experience. So what's your suggestion for like students like Sarah?
Yeah.
How do they engage with recruiters, or do you guys actually work with recruiters?
So there are definitely, the reason why a lot of recruiters don't work or engage with people around our uni or graduates is because typically our customers pay us because they are struggling to find people. They usually find it easier to find graduates, right? Because there are typically more of new jobs and therefore they're applying on their job adverts, which is why recruiters often don't work with them. I know there are some agencies that do specialise in grad recruitment. To be honest, we're not one of them. I don't do that. My advice would be to go to Summer of Tech, meet people at university, speak to the uni, ask them what they would suggest, go to more networking events, put yourself on LinkedIn, reach out to every recruiter who has a job title as if you want to go into engineering, reach out to those recruiters specifically on Wellington and just knock on every door you can. And hopefully you find someone who can specialise and help you. To be honest, I really don't specialise in graduate recruitment, but I know people out there do. The Summer of Tech is a big one. And again, a lot of, I think a lot of vendors, organisations like Data do really good grad programs. A lot of the banks are doing it as well. And this is a really good time of year as well, guys. Because I think Jan, Feb, and a lot of those kind of initiatives kick off. Career day, career fairs, all of those kind of things. Constantly looking online. That's really important. But you will stand out if you just do more work to find that job than someone else. Really, it's supposed to input to us and not giving up, just continually searching for it. You just got to keep going until you get there. I know it's tough, but that's what we have to buy something really good. Cool. So once you've done all that hard work and you've identified an opportunity and you really like it, how are you going to have an interview? Has anyone gone for an interview recently? How did it go? Good job. Oh, congratulations. That's awesome. Cool. I stumbled on more recently. But I think it's quite obvious with interview tips that a lot of people don't actually do the basics right. So if you go into an interview, you absolutely must research the company. Right? It sounds obvious, but go through the website, Google the company, and then click on the news and read all the recent news articles about them. Sometimes the websites are outdated and sometimes they're irrelevant. So if you want to know what's happening to that company now, today, Google and click on news, right? And you're going to find information around what's happening to that company in the last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That's really important to do your research as much as you can. If you know people who are there, reach out to them before your interview and talk to them. What's the environment like? What's the culture like? What are your expectations like? What's it like to work there? And how can I stand out when I go to this interview, right? So but it's not just going on the website, you've got to do a lot more work than that. And the interviewers themselves as well. Like, if you don't know who you're interviewing with, find out. Right? I know it's hard if you're going direct, but if you're going through a recruitment agency, your recruitment agent should and must know who you're interviewing with. Right? It's really important. If whether you're going to be interviewing with, who was who asked a question around the pageant interview? That you? Yeah. Right. So you go. It depends who you're meeting, to be honest. Right. They're always assessing something. Right? So it's very different going to an interview with someone from HR versus someone who's technical, because you're going to have to answer different questions for obvious reasons. So you've got to research who you interview with and what they actually want to be assessed in an interview. It's not always easy. So you've got to talk to your recruitment agent and ask them who you're meeting with and why you're meeting them. Right? And if you're going direct, you talk to the talent team and ask them who's going to be in the interview. Because you can't prepare for it if you don't know who you're meeting. So it's really important to know who you're going, like who you're actually going to be meeting with and why. Understanding the role and more than just the JD. A lot of JDs out there, they suck. A lot of them are dated, have been on the HR system for 6-7 years. So ask for more detail about the role. Again, if you go through a recruitment agency, they should know that. They should know the job requirement. They should know the culture. They should know the team size. They should know everything about the job outside of what's written on it in paper. And that's going to help you prepare as well. Cool. And then always use examples. Even if you've been studying, right, and someone gives you a question like, tell me the time you had to learn a new technology quickly, right? You don't say what you would do or could do, you say what you have done. Right? They really want to know what you've done and achieved. And if they're asking you something that's way out there and you've never had the experience, you're probably in the wrong interview. But you always want to draw from that experience, you always want to talk about what you have done and with relevant and specific examples. If you're more senior and you've been around 15 years and your CV's 4 pages, then you've really got to help the interviewers find what you're talking about. So you say, in 3 roles previously, in my role as 0, my job title was this, and this is what I was responsible for, and this was the challenge. Right? So you've got to help them find that piece of information on your CV, because you know the CV a lot better than they do. They're not going to be able to find it. In fact, it's sad to say that sometimes they barely read the CV there. They're not prepared for the interview. These guys often aren't trained to interview. If they're technical, they just turn up because they have to. So you've really got to help them out. And remember that often the people interviewing you, sometimes if it's not their job, they don't come from an HR background, or they're technical, they don't, they're not trained to interview. They can often be just as nervous as you are. So you've got to really help them out, and you've really got to talk to them in relevant examples and let them know that you've done what they're asking, which is very important. And I think the most important part is at the end of the interview, you've got to go away with some really good questions that you've asked them, because that's a test. You get asked every time, and you've got to make them powerful, and you've got to make them show that you're passionate and you care. The top tip I can give for asking great interview questions is to have the mindset or have the thinking cap on, what can I do for you, not what can you do for me. Right? So if you want to know about the culture, I would ask a question like, hey, I'm really interested in working in an environment that's a great culture. What can I do to help contribute? Or if you want to learn about the technology stack, you want to learn about the environment and the team, you could ask a question like, what are the biggest challenges facing the development team at the moment, and how can I help? Right, so every question you ask, you're flipping it to show that you're looking at helping them, and not what can this company do for you in your career. If you have a goal to become an architect, say in 5 years' time, right, you can say, what does a good developer look like coming into the business, and how are they going to speed as fast as possible to move down the architecture track in order to help the team? Right, so it's always putting on that mindset of how can you help them. It's really important, and it shows that you're already trying to add value before you even join the business. So I always encourage you to kind of have that mindset when asking a question, whatever it is. And another tip is to make sure you ask the question you can need to make a decision. If it's the final interview and there's certain bits of information you don't know and you can't decide if you want the job or not, you've got to be able to ask them in the interview, because you need to come out of an interview to know that it's the right job for you, so you can say yes. If they make you an offer, you're going to be comfortable and know what you're actually accepting. So you've got to come out of that with that information, but just make sure you ask it in a way that shows you're trying to add value to them. Has anyone any questions on that specifically?
Yeah.
Is there any suggestion what kind of questions, or say bad questions, we should have asked?
Bad questions never to ask. Probably, there's obvious ones. Ones that I know people have asked are things like, is there parking? Just like, how long is lunch break? People ask that all the time. Like, obviously, we prepare our candidates not to do that because it's stupid. But people really do ask that. If you flip out what I was saying previously, it's like, what can you do for me? Why should I take this job? Arrogance never works, right? People don't like that. So I think it's important just to kind of stay humble and show that you're doing your best because you want to help the business. But also you've got to show your ambition to succeed, and that comes across by asking things like, how can I get to speak as fast as possible to be effective for you and the team? Right, that's how I always frame the questions. But anything that's like logistical, I would only advise really asking 3 questions, 2 or 3. That's all you really have time for, usually. Probably out of respect for them and their time as well. That make them powerful, punchy, and anything kind of logistical around parking or lunch breaks or holiday leave or start day. If you go for a recruitment agency, I would leave it to them. If you're not, you can leave it to the talent team or the HR guys that are helping you, because the tech people they don't know, they don't care. But they will know that you're there to help some technology problems, not having your life there's a way to path. Oh, sorry, that question.
Just have one question. If the recruitment agent or interviewer asks you, what's your expected salary? So what's the best answer? Question.
That's a really good question. I guess it would probably depend on your knowledge of the market, so you need to seek out advice on that, specific to your skill set. You can do that by how to earn yourself, and you're not stepping down unless you were comfortable to do that. But I always advise perhaps going up around 10% of your half salary. And of course, if there's opportunity to do more, then do that. What was that, sir? In the actual interview, no, I wouldn't say anything in the interview. Are you talking about when you're talking to a recruiter, not what you're talking in the interview?
Yeah, I think maybe in the story interview in the phone call interview with the recruiter agent, we will ask you. Yeah, we will ask you the question, what's your expected salary range? Yeah. So do we have to give a particular number for the salary, or we just said, we just do the now that clear answer? Yeah. My advice in that case would be never to talk about it in the interview itself. Right, I would never do that. So I thought you talking about to a recruiter. If you're talking to a recruiter, the best thing you can actually do is tell them what your salary is and ask them what the banding is and what you think is fair based on the market. That's all you can wait for. You're never just going to get you the most amount of money possible, right? But the best way to kind of build that partnership, if it really is just the first phone call, it's just to say, hey, I actually don't know what the market rate's paying. Or if you do, you say if you've got friends who are an X, Y, and Z, right? I think I was experiencing them. Can I get that? Yeah. Right. But the best way to do it is be like, hey, look, this is what I'm earning right now. I'd obviously like to be earning more. What's the banding for this role? Can you share that with me? And you talk with your recruitment partner. And that's you really want to negotiate with them. I wouldn't be talking about salaries in any interview. I would leave that completely out of the topic unless it's with your recruitment agent or with HR for the business. Yeah. So is that normal that we tell our current salary to the recruiter and the interviewer? So they ask, what's your current salary?
To be honest, I have no partner with anyone who hasn't really told me. I find it really hard to help people if they put that stuff on the table. My job and how recruiters are actually incentivized is to maximize your income. And we want to do our best to make sure, at the end of the day, we don't get paid unless you start in that role. Okay, so we want to know, we actually want to get you as much money as possible, being honest.
right? And we can't do that unless we know what you're expecting and what you're looking for, what you're expecting and what you're earning currently. We're just in the dark, right? And then we can't help. But what we will do is tell you the bounds of the role and just say, hey, look, this is what they can offer. Our customer doesn't have any money for that. If you're interested, I can help you. Right, then we agree on the number and then we work towards that number and get our best to negotiate for you. So that's our job.
Yeah, I asked because some interviewer may be shy to negotiate a higher salary. For example, if someone asks a new graduate what their expected salary, they probably will just answer if that salary is reasonable, I will accept that. So, but I think that's a good answer because we can negotiate with a higher salary.
But I always about you to have a number in mind of what you actually want. Right? I mean, everyone wants more money. Right? But everyone also should probably have an idea in mind about what they want and then they try. Right? And if people leave jobs for a number of reasons, one of them is money, but one of them is also to learn new things and to grow and to get a new domain knowledge or to expand a career or to sometimes align more to their goals. And if they're really happy in their current role, sometimes people will leave for flat or sometimes even less, but it's really not often the case. So if you're looking to leave your job for whatever reason, I would encourage you to really have a number in mind and that's your number. Right? And that's what you think you're worth, and if that's what you talk to the market about or you talk to your friends or you go through networking events, or you know through reading online, or you know your work, then that's your number, and you say that's it. Right? And then over time, what I found with some candidates who maybe are stubborn with a particular number is unfortunately they get rejected time and time again until they realise, oh shit, actually maybe I'm not worth that much. And then they kind of realise that it's not everyone else, it's what they're expecting. But if you are moving jobs or you've got to do your research and find out what the market is paying, and you'll probably know through the news, through where the market, some companies pay a lot more than others, right? I mean, you look at those organisations there, finance pay a lot of money for software engineers, right? It's right all going there. But if you're working, for example, in a small organisation that's not paying very much, and your incentive is to earn more money, have a number in mind and say that's what I'm looking for, that's what I want. See how far those conversations get you. Right? And the recruiter says no. So then say, cool, I'll try and find another way. But then if you still can't find it, it's probably because the number you have is too high. I mean, it's in no one's real interest to underpay anyone, really. Companies want to keep hold of their talent. It's expensive to hire people. And I don't know what it's like in engineering, but in recruitment, if you hire an intern on $60,000 a year, that costs us $100,000 to bring that person on board. Right? So we don't want that person to come on board, and it's really expensive. So people don't want to underpay you. People typically pay market, and there's a banding, so you just need to know that boundaries. And you have to have a number in your head when you go into those negotiations. And maybe if you're not ready, can I call you back in 5 minutes? I'm in a meeting. What's the number? I'm sure that happens to me all the time. But yeah, that's just negotiation, and you've got to work out what that number means as a year. It's hard when you're starting out as a graduate. Because technical graduate roles, obviously they don't pay as much, but they usually as a banding, and some organisations pay more on those bandings depending on the business and how many grads they enroll that year in their budget for graduate enrolment. So yeah, a tougher one if you're a graduate, you kind of don't have any leverage. But you get your foot in the door, you work hard, you get promoted, and you maybe choose a company that you know has scale and you can grow with, and you can get promoted. Well, then if you work hard. That would be my nice.
We have a question from online attendees. Do you have any tips in translating global experience to a local NZ context? Like if you have software development experience overseas, but not for NZ company or organization, how do you say best to translate it to so the interviewer can best understand my skills?
Is it like a language barrier that we use?
I mean, like you work overseas, but not in Asian companies. So how can we create this company?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think it's probably easier in software development because it reads the same on a page. Right, you can show your skills through that. I hire a lot of people who come straight from China, for example, because you guys have awesome software developers. Yeah, but I mean, back to, we really a lot of work with people who come straight from China or India, and it doesn't. I think the biggest challenge is getting here, right? We had a lot of people overseas who want to come to New Zealand, and for lots of reasons it's hard. Firstly, because our customers typically want to have someone on the ground here now. We have tried several times to facilitate interviews with people in China, Japan, Sri Lanka, South Africa, and it's kind of given up now because there's so much that can go wrong. There's so much that can go wrong with flights, with visas, with family issues, with money, or whatever. It's just so much harder, and our customers kind of stop asking for it. So everyone was excited when the borders open, which is great, but it's people here and things and jobs. Those that are overseas, it is more challenging. Again, it's just a volume thing. It's like sales. You just got to keep reaching out to people, and the more, the more you reach out to people, the more luck you'll have. But it is really hard.
Yeah, I think the challenge is that especially for Chinese developers, because we have the gap of the cultural background or whatever. Sometimes we don't really get the local culture of New Zealand. Like when I just came to New Zealand, I said hardworking, like you working your time is a yeah, it's weird, but actually it's not encouraging in New Zealand. So how do you avoid that? Like any guidelines?
Yeah, the culture here is different. I know people who get pretty culture shock coming here and realizing how lazy a lot of people here are. It is the way it is. People get frustrated by it. They're like, why can't we deliver on Saturday? I'm at the beach. So yeah, it is also a thing people struggle with. There are some companies that are like that. In New Zealand, they're just rare. Again, you're probably going to find those more hardcore, faster-paced, aggressive delivery environments in the financial sector. Maybe not in the big banks. They kind of are not like that. You probably see how the Kiwi bank now. It's definitely not like that. But any of the larger kind of international companies, how to deal with it, I really don't know. It's hard because it is just the way things are here. And even if you go into a business where 90% of the team are Chinese, it's still run in a way whereby it's Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So I don't know. The good thing is a lot of the teams here are very multicultural. And a lot of my customers and teams are a whole blend of people from all over the world. But I have noticed that the culture from the top hasn't really changed overall, and it is very different to what I told it's like to work in China, for example. One of my key customers is FXZ. And that's about that. They got me working in Shanghai. So there are some countries like that where maybe it is a little bit more like it might be back home. Yeah, that's a good example. Yeah.
Can you touch on a little bit around the education techniques?
Yeah.
So, basically, if you have a recruiter, they do the hire up for you already, right? But if you don't have a recruiter, you don't take care of your phone. Getting the original practice.
Yeah. Not really. Recruiters, we are able to do it because we have information that makes it easier, right? Which is something like how many other candidates do you have in your service to customer, and they tell us, and then we say, okay, cool, we have something less leverage here. Right? It is more difficult if you're in a process where you're not working with a recruiter and you just don't know, right? It's very shielded. I've got a friend of mine who was going through Deloitte recently, and she got comms from this one person who didn't engage her at all, apart from the email saying, be here at this time of this interview. I'm advising her, like, can we get this person on the phone? you learn about anything about what you're looking into, which is like a brick wall. So she kind of has no leg to stand on whatsoever. So she threw out a number, and I'm like, I don't know how you can negotiate that, and they're not going to tell you, which makes it hard. I would probably suggest throwing out an anchor, a high anchor to begin with, and sticking at that for as long as you can, and then being maybe prepared to walk away from it if you don't love the job, or if the interview's not perfect, or you're just not completely sold. And just sticking to that anchor with them and seeing what happens. And if you really realise, oh, it's getting cold right now, maybe say, okay, what about 5K, so whatever the number is. Yeah, always start at a high anchor. It's hard if you've got no information. It's a lot easier for us as recruiters because luckily we're in a position to have more information, which gives you a little to stand on. But I think you just got to start at that high anchor and see what the first answer is. So if you've got a number, and you're going in blind, pick a number you're happy with, say, for example, it's 100, and ask them 130, see what they say. And if they say yes straight away, you're probably going to say a high number. That'd be my advice, but it's hard if you're going in blind, you just don't know. Yeah. Any other questions on that part? You can ask me afterwards, if you like. Cool. All right. Coach story number 2. I hope you know who this is. That's not me. Everyone here knows who this is? Cool. So maybe you guys know the story, probably better than I do, but I wanted to bring someone relevant to the room. So Jack Ma, worth something like $40 billion. Obviously owns one of the largest businesses globally, definitely in Asia. I think I wasn't paying much attention at the beginning, but I think I heard you mention on cloud. It was mentioned that just came to me straight away. So anyway, he failed a lot when he was starting out. He interviewed with the police, and out of 5 people who interviewed, they offered 4, and they rejected Jack Ma. He also interviewed with KFC. 24 people interviewed for that job, and there were 23 people and they rejected Jack Ma. So I think that gives you some confidence that you are going to fail some interviews and it's okay. It's not easy. It's really hard, but if you keep sending out your CV, if you keep getting certifications, if you keep meeting recruiters, if you keep coming to more networking events, if you keep working hard on yourself, if you keep upskilling, and you keep trying, you keep going to their job interviews, you probably won't become Jack Ma, but you might get that job and you might just find a career you want. So I hope that was useful for you guys. That's all I've got today. But yeah, happy to answer any questions at the end.
With the recent tech giants going through medical sale, starting in the US, what do you think is going to happen from the beginning of the standpoint?
I think we'll see it. I think we'll probably see a trickle down effect here. Probably know the expression when America swings the rest of the world back to the cold. So I think that's also going to happen in technology. I don't know to what degree. I do think we're going to see it slow down next year, regardless of what happens. Those companies obviously anyway. There's an election year coming. Typically, that means government slow down, hires people, critical projects still run with less contractors, and the nice to have projects that have been going down dusters for the last 18 months get put on hold, and those contractors get notice period time, and they've got 2 weeks to find something else. I think we might see probably just flatline the contractors definitely been dead. To answer your question around what's happening international and how that's going to affect New Zealand, I think that because it's been such a heavy candidates market for the last 18 months, and we've seen the likes of Atlassian coming in, probably pick up zero. Google, there's people that are working already for Apple in Auckland. Unfortunately, when those companies downsize, which they probably will, with the recession coming, it's not going to be the American in California. They're going to fire a Kiwi, they're paying way too much money in Auckland for working remote. So I think those people who did jump ship perhaps maybe didn't understand what the market's going to do, and I think everyone knows at some point it's going to go down. Maybe he was chasing a little bit of money and thought it was a good idea. At the time, might be out of the job, because I think it was really going to affect the Kiwis and Aussies who have been headhunted directly. That's what I think will happen. I don't know. I don't think anyone knows. But I think next year is going to be interesting, and it probably will slow down for a number of reasons. Hopefully not for too long. But yeah, I actually don't think.
And we might have some members who just graduated from the management in the IT field. What are the best, advice to them to get themselves into that software or system? How do you go there?
Again, it just comes down to what I said earlier. It doesn't change anything. You just got to keep controlling what you can control. You can't, I can't control the market. I can't control what Elon Musk wants to do at Tesla or Twitter or whatever. We can't control that. And what we can control is the amount of CVs you send. Right? And you can control the amount of people who reach out to our English. You can control the amount of networks you go. You can control the amount of research you do on the industry and find out which companies are hiring. You can control, you can control the knowledge you have. You can control the certifications you do. So just control what you can control, and hopefully you'll come out better than the ones you don't. So just, I don't know, just got to keep going, really, and you can't control it.
Coming back to the LinkedIn page. Okay, yeah. So I'm just curious about this talent insights. Is there a feature that can show which company hire most of the new graduates? From the new hires, how much percentage is a new graduate?
Okay. Any specific, like, just should we say software?
Yeah, no, software.
Let's just open the software. And if I just do it, bring up.
So, how to go?
So you see a few things you notice here, right? It's less hard to find. All right. It's probably not a very common job title. I think we'll get more success here if I just search general software. Junior. Graduate at the start of the day. So I didn't 155, but 0 again is up there. All right, I'll go back to this. Yeah, protocol or house search.
And we have a question from the online team is, can you take a look at front-end developer?
Yeah, see how I was.
Oh, no, it's very useful. It's really useful. How much is it?
That's front-end development. 0 again.
This is.
I think the graduate developer seems like it's a special title for some companies, but can you apply the junior developer?
Yeah. Maybe it's a much general.
Again, this isn't perfect, but it does give you a trend. I think the best junior stuff there is good.
It's about 300 or something.
Yeah. There we go. Right, health, that's even good. The other two, yes.
Thank you.
I know worries.
And then you fight Casper?
Test engineer or software tester? Just test it, see what happens. Or maybe a test analyst or something.
Pretty more than 300 people.
Yeah, it was six. Test analyst, that should bring up surely thousands. Yeah, there was a person that was even higher.
Very well, look at, organization and symptoms.
Yeah. Because they're right, okay, can't tell.
Gary, we have another question. So do you have any suggestions for those who want to work as IT engineer in New Zealand without any Indian study experience or work experience? I think that's similar to that's question. So like just in like a Chinese developers from China, but they don't have any local experience, then they just come here and like find a job. What's the first step they need to do?
I'll speak to me. I'll help them.
Yeah, okay, good. Do you have any tips for people who want to shoot for the higher end of a salary band? How do you demonstrate that you are worth it for a company?
Well, a lot of companies do, especially in the engineering space, testing. Things like, right? I don't think there's many software companies that I know that don't do any kind of formal testing, whether it's like a take-home test or they chuck you into like a sandbox environment and use code. Typically, if you get a strong score, you've got more of a leg to stand on when you're sharing, so you can kind of prove your skills and experience. That'd be one way. It's just that kind of proves your expertise. Otherwise, it just comes down to kind of negotiation skills at the beginning of the conversation. If it's through a recruiter, probably have a better chance of getting a higher salary. Again, if it's direct through a company, you don't have much to work. You've got zero information, and then you're in the dark. So if there's an opportunity to partner with someone into the role, that would really help. If you're applying for a job ad, it might ask you what you're looking for straight away in that portal, and then you don't really have much to do. But I think at the end, like, yeah, it's hard. Again, I don't know how to do it if you're doing it directly. Even for a recruiter, you've always got a better chance of getting more. That's the only advice I can really give. Otherwise, just have a number again. Be prepared to walk away if they don't offer it to you, and then you'll think we know if they'll pay it. But you've got to be prepared to do that. If you're going in blind, you just have to.
Which one's more important? A certification or a language studies related to work experience?
What I like to do.
Yes, so over two candidates, right? One has certification. The other one with 1 year with experience, which we can see.
Honestly, it depends on the role. It would depend on what's important to my customer on that specific job requirement. It's really hard to say. It really is. Some people will put a lot more value on it. Some people would say, I need someone who can come in and do the job and make them clean. I've done it before, so I don't have time to train it. Right? They need something to hit the ground running. Probably it's better to have more experience, but they say, we have time to train this person, we want someone who's right for the future and showing commitment to their career and on invested and passion and time to get up to speed. And it's like the right kind of person we're looking for, and that person said, we're going to stand out there. So it's case by case. Yeah.
I know you have been giving results to candidates. So what's the common attributes or quality do you see among those most successful candidates? And also what's the best practice of engaging with you guys as recruiters?
Cool. That's a really good question. I think the ones who do particularly well in the interview process just kind of put down everything else and focus on that. Right. So I think a recruiter like me who gets approached by candidates all over the market all day, every day, we want to work with people who are committed and engaged in the process. I get it when you might be looking for the best opportunity for yourself and therefore you've applied for 25 different roles and you're looking for what it pays the most. That's kind of hard for someone to work with. But my job is to really identify 2 or 3 of the best candidates in the market for one role that's probably the dream for my customer, right? So I'm honest with my candidate to look, I'm actually working with someone else on this opportunity as well. But I'll only ever work with someone who I think I can back to get that job. What that takes from a candidate's perspective is like commitment, engagement, wants to meet, to talk about the opportunity, wants to prepare with me for the interview, wants to take my phone call, wants to meet with someone in the business already to talk about the environment and culture. Just shows engagement and they want to get involved. In terms of those who do well in interviews, it's typically a lot of it comes down to preparation, but people who know how to talk, know how to articulate their experience in an effective way. Like we talked about earlier, but giving examples and asking questions, being prepared. And if you research the company, like I talked about earlier, then you can bring your relevant experience to the forefront of the interview. But if you haven't done the research, you don't know what they want, you haven't a tough person to hire. So you're just kind of standing in the dark. So if you've done your research and you know what's important to that person, you know the type of person they hire and why, which your recruitment agent should know, then you can bring that to the forefront of your interview. And then you kind of give them every reason give them every reason you can to want to hire. So it's kind of basically engagement and then obviously you want to do that. So, no worries.
Another question. Sure. So as we talked previously, you mentioned that more and more people move to Australia. Are those people in the IT industry and senior level engineer, which means in the Brazilian job market, there is less opportunity for the senior roles, and it cannot provide a satisfied salary for those senior level person.
Well, a bit of both. I think everyone was talking about when the board is opening, how everyone's just going to disappear and leave New Zealand, but it's not happening. It's still an attractive place to be. People are moving here. And yeah, lots of people are going to Australia because you can get paid more there. But a lot, it's a very, very few departments where it's not a mass exodus by any means. And there are lots of people coming into the country as well. From what I understand, there's quite a big bottleneck in immigration. I'm getting approached all the time by people overseas who want to come to New Zealand, who have great profiles, who want to come. they just don't have visas and they're waiting. So they'll come in slowly but surely with immigration, are able to kind of open up and be more efficient and get a lot more talent coming through into the New Zealand market. It's not a huge number of people leaving. Yes, there are some, but it's not the mass exodus that everyone was talking about 12 months ago before the border opened. Which really hasn't been what people thought it was going to be. So yeah, it hasn't really changed too much.
Any other questions? And the online attendees, do you have more questions? Question.
I asked the question in my notebook about document, but
Yes. Yeah, sure. All right, let's have a look at it. So if you are on STEM product development, you're going to be in very high demand. Too much of a specific title. What I did on these companies here. I'm looking at this person, .NET developers, Datacom ASB have .NET developers, BNZ mainly is Java. Right, they have some .NET development. KiwiBank, mostly .NET development. Westpac is mostly Java. They have some. ANZ is mostly Java. They have some. Trimble, don't know. Right, don't know. Atlassian is .NET again. Serco is mostly .NET. Gentrack, I think, is mostly .NET. Air New Zealand is a bit of both Java and .NET. Microsoft was obviously Microsoft. Eero, interestingly, where Java they were bought out by Cortex about a year ago. Cortex is .NET, Eero is Java. It was running the two systems together, so they have about 50-50. Jane is Jane. This I don't know. TrainMe is a kind of blend, but there's lots of .NET development in TrainMe. FOS is, I think they're based in Christchurch. They are mainly .NET developers down there as well. They're brought out by Suncorp, I think, but I think they're an American company. Adaran, lots of .NET developers in there. ClearPoint, I think they're all .NET as far as I'm aware. Gallagher looks .NET. PushPay is a fintech company that is all pretty much .NET in there. What else? Better not really. Flax not really. That's more Ruby on Rails. Fiserv, a lot of .NET in there. MIB, lots of .NET in there. IAG is mainly Java. Some it's mainly Java and Guidewire, which is an insurance development app. There's budget so much. It's in New Zealand, if you look at the .NET, there's heaps. Yeah, it's probably the most in-demand skill set for development in New Zealand right now. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Cool. Any other questions? No, yeah, just thanks very much. Thank you very much, David. That's okay.
Awesome.
Thank you for the talk. Yeah, I really appreciate your time. And actually, I just talked to David, I think a few weeks ago, but actually I only got a new job. I talked to David. Would you like to make a talk for 3 time members? Because yeah, we have such so many talents and the probably right. Yeah, that's really great. Also, I'm not sure. I remember how do you feel, but I learned a lot from David talk. Like, for example, if you want to like find a good job first, networking. That's what we do now, right? Steve have just built a platform to connect with people and try to make your LinkedIn profile shine like shining and like new. Also, talk to recruiters like David. I can buy him a coffee sometimes. I do encourage you when like you interview times, even you have a job, because it's just to keep ourselves like you have a sense of how it works on market. I don't know how to think, but that's fine. And last thing I think, certificate, right? Certificate, you mentioned certificate, that's also say that we have the award for certificate change. That's the good thing, our members have lots of certificates. We have many certificates we have changed. If you get the certificate, we have some award like the t-shirt or class. Really informative talk. Really appreciate your time, right? So that's appreciate David. So we book the room till 8:30, so we have enough time to just for the table talk, okay? Folks, I'll stop recording.